Cabinet secretaries from Kenya, led by PCS Musalia Mudavadi, are in Baku attending the COP29 climate conference. The leaders are clear about one thing: climate finance is non-negotiable for Kenya, a message they seem to have internalized, reading from the same script, repeating the same words over and over with each media engagement. You might say they're in character, because COP29 has been nicknamed the finance COP, expected to deliver what other COPs have failed to do: money for the vulnerable countries worst hit by climate change. But will it deliver? Nation Media Group sustainability editor Zainab Wandati expounds on the heartbeat.
Day 2 of COP29, and sleeves are rolling, temperatures are rising, negotiations are kicking off following the adoption of the agenda last night. Now, one of the issues that is expected to be discussed on the agenda is the issue of climate finance. Now, this is usually a very emotive issue, not just at this COP, but at every COP. And at this COP, this emotive issue of climate finance stalled the agenda because they could not agree on the modalities or the aspects of the climate finance that they wanted included in the agenda. So the question is, what is climate finance?
The finance COPs means the main theme of COP29 is to come up and now look at all the financial commitments that have been made as provided for within the convention, including the Paris Agreement of 2015, moving towards the Cancun, and also the commitment of $100 billion per year up to 2020, and setting up a new goal post 2020, which has not been agreed upon. Over the last 2 years or so, from Sharm el-Sheikh to United Arab Emirates, Dubai last year, COP28, there has been an agreement that we need to have a new collective quantifiable goal for climate funds. Now, that new QCG is now what is hoped to be reached here, so that the past of the misses and the past of the gains can now be consolidated to take the entire world in financing climate change.
There was an agreement in Copenhagen of $100 billion that was never achieved, that there was no tracking system, that there was no mechanism to track it. Now we are bringing in as Africa a new financing mechanism of 1.3 trillion, because the global south and also Africa, we are the victims, and the polluters are here. So we want the polluters to pay for the victims.
For poor countries and other countries in the global south like Kenya, climate finance is a very important issue because it allows them to adapt to the impacts of climate change or to build resilience for future impacts of climate change. However, because of the poor nature, they're never able to raise the resources that they need to fund this resilience. Hence the reason climate finance becomes a key subject at the COP.
Kenya itself as a country is a victim of climate change in the last 4 or 5 years, from drought, where 5% of our GDP was consumed. 2.5 million livestock was lost in the Asal region. Then we had the floods that killed many of our people. In Nairobi alone, I think 42 people died. But across the country, over 400. So we are coming here as really victims of climate change, and climate change is real.
Particularly for Africa, adaptation and building local resilience to the local communities going forward. The resources that have been required to transit from the current systems to the new desired Earth of well below 2 degrees Celsius is supposed to be driven by this new QCC.
Now, whether or not COP29 actually delivers on this climate finance, it's still too early to tell. It's only the second day anyway.
We now need to move away from commitments to actual support. So this being a financing COP, we hope that this can now be realized.
The choice for Kenya today, as I stand here, is between 3 things. climate change, from drought to floods to landslide. How do we deal with it? That destroy our infrastructure, that affects our budget cycle. 2, debts, the burden of debts. And I think the other key thing is the choice we have to make is developing our country, sustainable development. So on one side, we have the effects of climate change, having heavy burden on our economy. We have the debt burden, and then we have sustainable development. Our people want development.
We are looking forward to graduating from pledges and commitments to actual disbursement of the resources. When we were in Nairobi, the president chaired a session and we were able to get the Nairobi Declaration with the direction and the agenda for the African continent. Now, these countries now need actual support. And therefore, the re-engineering, what we need to get out of here is the re-engineered financial products, which are concessionary in nature, which do not have too many complications for disbursement, so that the countries can start their action plans on environmental actions to save their countries.
In any multilateral process, political will is very important. And even at the COP, political will is key. And that's why the first few days of the COP are spent in what is known as the World Leaders Forum, where the world leaders come together and give it the political impetus that it needs in order to run smoothly. But here at COP29, political will is somewhat absent, because even though there were 80 world leaders here in attendance, the big polluters were absent. The USA is absent, Canada is absent, the EU is absent, and even France is absent. And now the negotiators are worried that if the big polluters are not here, who will they be discussing finance with? Who will they be holding to account when it comes to climate finance? But we are here on the ground still, and we'll be here until the end, and we wait to see how this plays out. Zainab Wandati, NTV in Baku, Azerbaijan.